All right, everybody, we are here today with Eric Triplett, the pond digger. Thank you so much for coming on, sir. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Eric Triplett, my friends and family call me the pond digger. You can call me whatever you want. Hey, and I got a bone to pick with you right now, bro. I don't know how I feel about this. I thought your wife was going to be here, bro. It's just you and I on the podcast together today. What happened? Where's the call?
It's just us today, man. Yeah, we just got done shooting ours, and you just got me today, man. That's what always happens. Everybody gets shorted, you know. That's the feedback I always get. It's only you, you know. I'm like, come on. I know everybody really wants Nicole to be on here, but we will get it back together. And I know we were talking about doing like a relationship podcast in the future, and I'm definitely all in on doing that. So we can mend that bone then and keep on rolling.
All right, good. As long as we have that, as long as she knows, I really wanted her on the show today. But you know, hey, cool. It's cool to finally get in touch with you. I remember, you know, we went to the Lion's Den last year, you know, the Lion's Den meetup in Utah. And I was like documenting it and I was sharing it on social media. And I don't remember who it was. Or like, bro, did you connect with Jacob? And I was like, Jacob who? You know, I didn't know. I'm positive we bumped into each other in the hall and I saw you, but I didn't know who you were yet.
That's what's crazy. Like I told you back when we first started talking and connected right after, I'd always saw your stuff on Snapchat way back in the day. And I don't even like get on Snapchat anymore, but I just remember seeing the pond digger and like I was really familiar. I'm surprised I didn't see you there and notice who you were. So yeah, that sucks. You get to all these events and that's what's cool about them. There's so many good people, but I hate when there's an opportunity like that where we didn't get to meet in person and kind of take advantage of the event. You know what I mean?
Well, that's cool. I know you just got back from 10X in Las Vegas, and like it's interesting because I think that's what you and I have in common. You know, I mean, the industries and all these things and coaching and all that stuff, we have a lot in common in that regard. But like, since as long as I can remember, networking with peer groups and things like that have been really important to me. And I think that's been a big reason for my success in my career, I think for sure.
I mean, when we were kind of recapping the 10X conference today, me going over that when we did, when me and Nicole were shooting the podcast, and same kind of thing. She said, you know, all the positive connections and things that I have made from those events, like really leading towards a huge change in my mentality of business and the direction we were headed. I would say like a lot of people look at some of that stuff like snake oil sales, but when you get the gold nuggets out of it, like this really came from one of the guys, Jesse Itzler, does this Build Your Life Resume, which is a yearly calendar. And I really first saw him at one of Grant's events. And so now I got this thing, like I've already got $1 Million Mastermind over here from Stuman. And, you know, I got all these different things because, yeah, those peer groups, networking, being at conferences and stuff, it just brings so much value. And you don't have to, it can just be a couple things that could make huge changes in your business that will change everything for you.
I'm a big fan of Jesse. I love Jesse. I got, you know, all my Kevin's rules, my Masogis, all those things kind of lined out. There's just another thing. I mean, I knew what it was when I saw it and I just didn't connect the dots yet, but there's another thing. He's got a great coaching group and, you know, just if you're kind of hitting on all cylinders in all these different parts of your life, it's cool. I mean, what I love about Jesse, it's really about, you know, developing that personal part of your life, because we're going to go after our business, right? If you're going after only personal life, then your business is going to suffer. But if you're only going after business, now your personal life suffers and all that stuff can just fall apart.
Yeah, I love that because he's one of the few people that it's so, like you said, it's so family focused. It's so fun focused. He's just really light when it comes to the business aspect, but yet he goes out and does massive things. And it's proof that you can do those things and still have all this other stuff going on and running for miles and miles and doing all the ice bathing stuff he's doing, which has got me, I'm like ordering a cold plunge. I'm super into the whole cold plunge thing. I need to be in cold enough weather where you don't even have to buy anything. You just get a bucket, put it out, or a barrel, put it out there and hop in. But let's track into this a little bit today, starting off with a little bit about the pond digger, you know, the actual business that got you into this and led you to where you are now. What initially got you into being involved in ponds?
I started out in construction. I was 17 out of school. I got in construction right away. I got into rough framing. I was a rough framer for several years, became a journeyman, was running stuff. And it was cool. I mean, I think I excelled at it. I was really cool. You know, I mean, so I was like 22 years old. I was running a cruise on roofs and stuff like that, right? But it was a really interesting point, and I've told this story before, but every time I tell it, it sinks in a little deeper with me. But like, I remember telling this 55 or 60-year-old man what to do. And he was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like, how is this, you know, kid with no shirt on, long hair halfway down his back, bossing me around? And it was like this really weird wake up call for me. And I don't know how I had the wherewithal to think about this, but I was like, this guy was probably me like 30 years ago. And I was like, I just don't want to be that guy, you know? But anyways, I was like, my hobby at the time, I was really into fish, aquariums and all this shit. I flipped a switch, made a pivot. You know, wasn't married, didn't have a wife, didn't have kids, didn't have, you know, any responsibilities, no mortgage payment. And I just went from making great money as a framer, you know, a journeyman framer. And then all of a sudden I'm like cleaning aquariums and doctors' offices for a living, you know? And so like that kind of like built up, and it was like really fulfilling for me, you know, doing this fun stuff. And I was broke for a long time, but then getting into ponds, that was kind of the switch, because it was just like an outdoor aquarium. It took a good, maybe 8 or 9, 10 years before it kind of made the real switch, but that's kind of where it all turned from.
You keep talking about the correlations of like the Jesse Itzler thing and all these other things that are similar. I had that exact same story when I was 18. I was working for a landscape crew. I was always just like a really like good attitude, go-getter type of guy. And I remember there was this, he's probably 60s. At the time, I thought he was like in his 50s. He was probably 60s, always smoking a cigarette, always on a mower. Well, I ran a landscape crew and he was out on the mow crews, and he had to come help us. And the jobs were my jobs that we were running. And I remember I don't know why I said it to him, because he's much older than me, but I'm like, son, come on here. We got to get this done. And he was like, I don't know who you're talking about. And I'm like, I mean, sorry, either way, I'm going to tell you what to do, because like, we're not going fast enough, and this has to get done, and this is my responsibility. And it was funny, like how similar that was, and seeing people down the road, because I always look, and that's what I try to build in my company. Some people are going to want to stay at a level all their life, and they're happy with that. And it takes all kinds. That's totally fine if you're happy. But when I think I saw that, I wanted a lot in the future. It helped me when I think back on that, looking at my company, I want there to be a lot of opportunity to go to whatever you want to be. So if you want to get out of the field, you want to manage, you want to move up, that option be there, so you're not stuck in just like a flatline area in a company like that. And that might not have been what that guy was. Maybe it was a pastime for him or something in his retirement. I don't know. But very, very similar situation.
Did you have long hair back then too, by the way?
Matter of fact, I did. I raced motorcycles. I had gauged ears. The people that cut my hair said I would never have to worry about losing my hair because my hair was so thick. Yeah, no, I had actually, when that happened, I probably had hair down to like right here, and not a ponytail. You know, I never had it that long, because when I was at a college prep school where you could not have hair touching your ears. So I didn't have enough time to grow it out by the time I was 18, 19. I was going to go more just on ponds, but hopping back and forth between this stuff at the beginning. When in that evolution of all of that, did you start getting involved in personal development?
You know, what's interesting is because like, I think the personal development thing actually hit me. And that's why I started the business. You know, that's why I was, hey, I got to make a move. And it was just like a Tony Robbins book, you know, like back then, no internet, you know, I'm just reading this Tony Robbins book, Awaken the Giant Within.
That's what you would say.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was like probably 89 or 90. I mean, it was a long time ago, right? There was no cell phones, internet, and stuff like that. So like that book was a personal development book to me. I mean, it was just like getting that going. And then, so I think that was like the thing that helped me pivot. I don't even remember who introduced me to that book and how I got that book in my hands, but it was like probably a real blessing. Otherwise I might be, you know, that same guy. I might be smoking cigarettes up on a roof, getting yelled at by some young kid right now. I don't fucking know.
So were you a cigarette smoker back then too?
No, I'm not.
I was actually a cigarette smoker, but
well, but you know, that's it. You know, like you get more and more vices as, you know, like the more depressed you get inside of that, you know, you're going through that. You don't like your job. All of a sudden you're fighting with your wife, then you get a divorce, and then you're getting a DUI, and then you're smoking cigarettes, and it compounds. Like I don't smoke. That could be me right now. So I think that part of personal development's always been kind of for me, you know, but I don't remember, like, I didn't read that book and then go down a rabbit hole reading a book a week all the time. You know, it's just like, that was the book that was like the holy grail for me. I went into business, and then I was just reading books on fish, how to know more about fish, how to know more about identifying and all that geeky shit like that. When I started building ponds, it was probably 8 years later, it was probably 98. I was kind of a big deal in my industry at that time because I just came out, I was already a fish geek. You know, I'm in Southern California. The weather was perfect. Everything was kind of aligning. And, you know, like within a couple of years, we're doing 100 ponds a year. So I kind of became like I don't want to say a spectacle in my industry, but people were like, hey, he's one of the top pond builders that like really kicks ass. That takes us back to the peer groups and the sharing and the networking and all this stuff. So I would go to these conventions, hang out with all these pond guys, we'd be trading information and stuff like that. That's how the networking kind of happened. But I was doing that back when I was doing aquariums. Just like I'd see a guy do an aquarium, I'd stop and see him. I'm like, hey, you take care of doctors' offices too? I do that. We should talk.
Yeah.
And they, like most of them didn't want to talk to you. They're like, you're my competition. I'm not talking to you.
It's so funny that old school mentality of thinking that matters when you could do so much more together if you guys were all, somewhat in it and looking out for each other and working together versus thinking that competition is, oh my gosh, can't talk to them because they'll find out some secret and then we won't do as good. It's just crazy.
Dude, this I want to tell you where this comes from, what I believe this is coming from. It comes from this older generation, right? And so generationally, it's still sticking here, but this is like probably almost 100 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old. Like imagine smaller cities. And I'm going to use my horseshoer, my what do they call it? Farrier. Our farrier right here. He's a third generation farrier. Like his grandfather was like in the town when there was like a lot of horses and not that many people. And he was a farrier. He didn't share any secrets, bro. None. Like he wanted to do all the horses in town. He was the fastest. He got them done. Everyone loved him. And so he just taught his son, and then his son taught his son, and then he didn't share anything, right? But now our farrier today, he's kind of like a big deal. He goes around, he's training people, but like think about the generations of people and all of the employees that they taught. Don't teach anybody, don't tell anybody, it's secret, keep it to ourselves. And so I think that's slowly going away. But some of those people are still alive today that are still pushing that kind of that mindset. And so it's still kind of out there.
It's crazy how it's not industry specific at all. It is in everything. Yeah. Because I was so involved in motocross and I loved racing. And but a thing I watch, pretty much, I'm sure you know who it is too, but Travis Pastrana,
exactly.
Hero to me. All of the freestyle guys hated or didn't understand. They're like, because Travis would have everybody out to his house and he'd teach them how to do tricks and show them. And everybody's like, why does he share everything he's doing and try to teach everybody? But it was like, because that would level up their industry. And then that would make everybody more, it would make it more fun to compete and stuff. But that same mentality, even in like a thing like freestyle motocross, it doesn't matter what it is. That's in everything. And yeah, I hope it goes away, but I still hear that stuff. And I'll hear people act like there's some industry secret. There's no secret. Like I can tell you whatever I want about how we run our business. You're not me, and you're not going to do it the exact same way as me, and you're not going to just run away and do much with that. It could help you a lot. And if you implement it correctly, it could make massive changes. It all boils down to, like, in my mind, like a huge scarcity mindset of like, I'm going to lose something by giving something instead of I would help people and that's going to come back tenfold.
Here's what I want to bring this home for your viewers, because I know you're coaching a lot of guys and they're really banking on you to bring value, right? The guys that are training together, those are the guys that are making the big moves. These are the guys that are making the big changes, and they're feeling the big impact in their business because they're sharing the stuff. Just like Travis Pastrana and all those guys out there, remember their names, but they were showing the techniques of how they were getting it done. And those are the guys who now are doing double backs and all that stuff, right? So it's like, think about that in your business, whatever business that you're in, whether it's lawn care, building ponds, or a coaching group, it doesn't matter. Like the guys that are in a core group and that share, those are the ones that are like going to the next level, up and up and up. If you're on an island in your own town with your own business, you don't want to share shit. You're not gonna expand like all these other guys sharing.
Exactly. I mean, that's huge. And that's where the conferences pull people together. That's where coaching groups, where I know we're going to spend some time talking about that as well, pull people together. And then you have to make sure with some accountability to kind of follow that up with one piece. Even with coaching groups or anything I've been involved with, is like the actual taking action and keeping up with the stuff. Because I see so many people get in and they wonder why they don't have results, or they wonder why it's not moving forward at the pace they want it to. And everybody gets, usually in the stuff me and you are involved in, people are trying to get better at growing a business and things in the industry. they wonder why things aren't going the way they're wanting to, but they're not staying up on the things like the taking action that's going to move them forward. And then that's what you start seeing. You start seeing people fall back from being active in a group. And usually it's when they need to be the most active, because that group is really creating so much and creating a bond and creating a resource. Like you said, you're not on an island. Everybody else has been through things like this. It's a resource and a network of people that no matter what, someone else can help you and help you fly through these things so much faster. They did all the tricks because they were all out there doing it together, learning little different pieces and being able to sit down and whatever they did, drink beers, eat, hang out, and go over those things, and then be able to go out and do all this revolutionary stuff 10 times faster than anybody else. Same thing behind like a coaching group, networking, all of it.
It's hard work to be in those networks. So it's hard work to take the time off to go to the event, to like take notes, come home and then figure out what those notes are and then implement the notes. And whether you're getting on the coaching calls on Tuesday nights and Friday mornings and whatever those days look like, it's a lot of dedication and it's a lot of work. And some people they're not cut out for it. You're only going to get out of it what you put into it. If you don't put in effort, you're not going to get anything. And then you're like, oh, this coaching work, that shit doesn't work for me. I tried that. It was no good.
Yeah. And 100%, that's a great litmus test on how you're going to be in business, because business is best for the person who can do things that are challenging, hard, or boring just over and over and over and over, because there's a lot of repetition of just doing the same things. And it's not all sexy and fun, but then those compound, and then long-term down the road, yes, there are really exciting things that come from all that.
When you're in a group and you're coaching or being coached or whatever, and like most of the good coaches that I know, I mean, they're being coached by other people as well. Like they're in other coaching groups and then they're coaching their own little niche and all that kind of stuff. And that's how I am right there. But like right when you get to a spot where you become really frustrated by it, that's when you need to dig into it, because with that great frustration comes great breakthroughs. Yep. And that's where it's like that whole like chipping away at that diamond, like, going that diamond shaft and he's like inches from hitting the diamonds and then he like just gives up. Yeah, I mean, that's where it happens.
Well, that's what the support system is so good when you talk about groups. It's always the hardest right before you break through. Like you're always the most exhausted, the most tired, and then the most just like, I'm over it and I want to give up. And that's what's nice, like on another thing of being able to have a voice of reason that's been there, that going into the coaching group side of things, like that's what I love. Like we've got ours, by the time this releases, ours is going to be closed again, but we've got ours open. And I love, it's a safe place for everybody to be able to support each other. When I see so much BS in our industry and Facebook groups and all these other things, and that's so bad because there's a lot of people going through really, really hard times in their business, in their life. It could be their family, it could be financial, it could be all these different things. And just having that voice of reason with someone in the group that's like, I've been there, man. I know it's bad, but I promise you there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to keep going. And if you don't stop, it will get better, because there's a lot of people that don't get that do it on their own. They're on their island and they just fizzle out or go in a different direction or stop and then have to start again. And now it takes 10 times longer to get any direction you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a couple of contractors that are like kind of in an island that are successful, but it's fewer and more far between than the guys that are in networks and gals that are training with people. And it's interesting that you say that stuff about your groups and it's hard and stuff. It's like sometimes like there's moments when you got a grown ass man like tearing up a little bit on one of the coaching calls, and you're like, that's when the powerful stuff's happening. That's when the breakthrough's happening. It's like all good stuff.
Heck yeah. Well, before we even dig deeper into that and kind of what you've got going on most currently, when you talk about the pond stuff, I'm really interested in this because I've got a lot of friends that do ponds. Hey, it's not something I talk about a lot, but I like to hear everybody's take on it. Is in that industry, what do you think the hardest thing of, like, if you're a landscape company and you decided you wanted to do ponds as well and you want to learn about it, what do you think the hardest part of breaking into that is? Doing the water features, getting involved in that whole side of the business?
The hardest part of breaking into it is understanding fish. I mean, if you have no background in fish, and like you could break into fountainscapes and disappearing waterfalls, a lot of the higher end stuff is like when there's fish involved, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of recreational style ponds being built out nowadays, but the fish is probably the hardest part to really break into and do it well. And like communicate to the person who wants to do fish really well. And if you don't know anything about fish, then how can you communicate with that person who wants to do a pond really well for fish?
Well, even like the rec ponds, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of these bigger areas are like you're actually creating an ecosystem. So there's fish, there's all kinds of different things in it, and that's actually maintaining the water. Is that correct?
There's different schools of thought right there. So like BioNova is like the big natural swim pool, natural swim pond style stuff. And they're not really big on having fish in those ponds. There's a couple of microscopic animals that would be growing in that pond that the fish would eat that kind of like go against that. But I mean, I love ponds with my fish in them that I go swim, I could go jump in and swim around. Like that's cool to me. But like the real like clean swim ponds, they don't want fish in them. So there's like that tug of war right there. Like, how do you want to do it? You know,
that's really interesting. Yeah, like and I guessed you were going to go that direction because I know that you're so educated on the fish in general, and it does seem like a part to like if you really want to do the fish pond, like the full blown koi ponds and everything really well, it to me seems like the most complicated kind of piece of the whole puzzle. Well, yeah, I mean, we went over a lot of that stuff, and we've already started to talk about coaching and networking. Well, with your business, with coaching, with everything that you have going on right now, just kind of catch me up to speed and let me know, like, what's your vision of what all this stuff is looking like in the future? Business growth. I know you're getting more and more involved in coaching. What does that paint a picture of what that looks like?
I make 55 this year. So I'm thinking like, you know, in 10 years, where do I want to be? I mean, I love building ponds, but I also love building relationships. And I also love helping contractors. I've been doing it for a long, long time. So I just pivoted about a year and a half, 2 years ago to like doing it professionally where I'm helping people. And, you know, you have a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, why would someone pay me? Why don't they just pay Andy Frisella or Ed Milet or Sean Whalen? Like, but sometimes those people are kind of like unreachable. Like they're almost untouchable. Like they're such a big name that you can't get close enough to them is how people perceive that, right? But where I'm at in business, there's thousands and thousands of people that, you know, I could support and help and get them to a next level and either grow with them or get them to a level and then they go on beyond. I've done that before too. I mean, I took a young pond builder from, you know, a small operation to doing $1 million. And now he's like surpassed me. He does like 10 million a year. You know, and we're still buddies and everything. But so like I can help people through that process. Just I know where to find my lane. I want to practice what I preach. There's so many coaches out there that are like business coaches, but they can't build a fucking team. They're like business coaches, but they can't hire and fire correctly. It's like, are you really a business coach and you can't even run a team? Like there's that kind of stuff going on, right? So I love building my team out. I love turning them loose and doing stuff, teaching them how to sell, teaching them how to build, all that kind of stuff. And I can really delegate and step back. And even though I think I could do it better or faster, I'm like, well, that's just how it's going to get done. And I'll have to go delegate stuff over here. I'll get more stuff done. Anyways, the coaching is a big thing for me. More so than anything. I love the way it makes me feel when I can help someone
100%.
Turn their whole life around and change the trajectory of where they're going. Like, you know, instead of being that 60-year-old man smoking cigarettes on the roof, getting yelled at by the young kid, like they're really transforming their lives.
I love that. I don't know what it is about the coaching side. Actually, I do know what it is. Like I love, and I know you like the same thing, when you get the check for the big job or somebody you sold the project to and your team's made them really, really happy and they love writing you the check at the end because they're stoked about what you did. That feels good. But you just cannot replace the feeling you get when it's someone who's struggling in business. For me, and I'm sure with us talking, it's the same way for you. You just cannot get that. It's not the same feeling for me. I feel 10 times more fulfilled. Like that's why, like for me, the YouTube content and stuff, all it takes for me is one person to say, thank you, that helped, or one, and that means more. It's crazy that one thing means more than almost any other deal in like, oh, we're doing a landscape company where we're doing millions a year between the two of them. And we do all these projects and like that one comment that, you know, nobody paid me, did anything, like feels better than anybody that loves our company on a big scale. Not that I don't appreciate all of them as well. And then, so that's when you tie that into coaching, seeing that dramatic effect. You said the tear coming down the face of, you know, somebody that's going through a stressful time or just really helping people. Another comment you made that I love is at the level we're at, you can help thousands of people. It's a very instrumental time in business, like 0 to $1 million to 2 million, like in that range, I'd say like 3 million and down, getting to where like you have some kind of business acumen, because a lot of people get into this and they get into it because they just can do a thing and they don't know anything about business. And actually getting through there, that's why there's so many different levels. And that's, like you said, there's people for this level, there's people for this level, and that can carry you on through to wherever it is you want to go.
Bro, sometimes that tear coming down the man's face is my own, and I'm teaching, you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting emotional about it. That's when I know it means a lot, you know. That's how I know it's really fulfilling like that. I just have a lot of cool stories about forecasting things that someone they're not going to see. And I think I mean, I talk about finding my lane. I think a special spot for me is taking the artist, you know, starts their own business, and that artist could be a landscaper or a pond builder, or, you know, a carpenter is an artist in their own regard, building furniture or whatever like that. Like, taking that person who's an artist who starts their own business, but they never really get off the ground because they don't know how to run operations. They just know how to be an artist. And so they just created another job for themselves, only they're their own boss with all the fucking stresses and all the risks, all the liability.
10 times more work than the 9 to 5 and that.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, instead of working 40 hours a week, they're working 100 hours a week. And like, so like, I think my real special spot is like taking that person, because someone like that might not ever break $1 million. They might be stuck under that threshold forever, right? And with just a little bit of direction, a little bit of sales communications, and a little bit of, dude, you're holding yourself back, give that to someone else, you know? And if they listen to you and they apply themselves, like we talked about earlier, it's hard. But if they do that and then they make the change, that's really rewarding for me, really fulfilling.
I love that. So what does it look like what about the pond company? What does that look like as this is all transitioning forward for you as well?
I'm still very much involved in my pond company because I am the artist still, bro. Like, and plus it's still also part of my, like, hey, why would anyone want to be a coach? Want me to be their coach if I, like, oh, I want to give up my construction company to be a coach. I don't do any admin. I don't pay taxes. I don't answer phone calls. I don't do any of that shit, right? I do sales. I do training. I still do quality control and stuff like that. Dude, you have to remember too, bro. I've talked about this in other podcasts as well, but like in 2015, I got cancer. I thought it was going under, and I shut down my construction company in 2015, and then took 2.5 years off to recover and get healthy.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then, so I had to rebuild my world-class construction company. Like, you know, from 99 to 2015, I had like the same crew pretty much. And I helped them get their contractor's licenses, set them free, sent them all the leads. And I was like, I'm just going to go die. But I got healthy, but it took me 2.5 years to recover. And then I was like, should I start doing ponds again, or what should I do? Like, but I had to get that stress out of my life, you know, like I didn't want the stress of running that kind of business. But now I just run it in like a less stress-free environment. Sometimes I'll blow up, but pretty rare, pretty rare to get me razzled. But so I had to rebuild that. So now I'm like, I'm building a new world-class company, if you will. New world-class team of guys that work for me, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a horrible experience. But those horrible experiences, I've never been involved with cancer yet, and hopefully not ever. But at the same token, like the death situations for me have been when I look back on them, obviously it wasn't fun. I had 2 different incidents. I had a weird virus that almost killed me in like 2016, 2017. And like 14 years before that racing, I crushed a vertebrae, punctured lungs, did all the stuff. And both of those times though, when I look back, it's crazy how much perspective they have given me in my life. And I would never ask to have those taken out of my life, because as much as those sucked, they're a huge part of why I do the things I do now, and why I feel the way I feel about things. Or I feel like I've got a limited amount of time, so I need to hurry up and get my shit together and make stuff happen.
No, it brings a lot of perspective to a lot of things. And so, I'm definitely a changed man. I'm different than I was before then, you know. I look at things completely different. You know, when you look at death in the eye, you know, and you can get a close call in an accident and stuff like that on the road, like, wow, that was close. I could have died right there. But when you're like thinking you're on your deathbed and contemplating that and spending all that time, it changes your perspective, you know. Things don't bother you as much as they used to, you know.
That's where I think the gold in it is. You had this horrible situation, you know, like yours is something that's going to be like, that situation is a potential trailing off and getting worse and worse. Mine was a super quick thing where the doctors are like, I'm there, my wife's pregnant, I got 1 kid, and the doctors are telling my dad, hey, he might not make it. this is like, we have no idea and we can't stop what's going on. Nothing else in the world's like that. Do I get stressed out about business? Yeah, I get stressed out about business, but ultimately nothing is as crazy as that was and ever will be in life. And I do feel like that is something that makes me overcome stuff easier, because I'm like, man, this isn't shit. This is not going to kill me. It may cause me to lose the last 2 hairs on my head, but it's not going to kill me.
You end up loving deeper, building deeper relationships. I text people randomly just to tell them like, what's up? Hey, I was thinking about you. I love you. You're awesome. Just out of the blue, that kind of stuff's important.
You're more appreciative of your life.
Oh yeah. Gratitude is like, it's beyond. It's awesome.
Yeah. So we're trailing off on all kinds of different stuff, but you talk about this, and this goes into this, and trying to foster this in a group to show people this too, like trying to work and help people get so stuck back to what we were talking about earlier, scarcity mindset. And then they come into this stuff like afraid to invest the monthly payment, afraid to pay to go to the conference or buy the thing, getting them on the deal of understanding abundance and being grateful for what you do have. Like, I think it's all these things that have shifted my mindset. Like when I get up in the morning, I'm like, sweet, we get to do this again.
Yeah, sweet.
This is good. I'm outside walking. It's dark. I'm just thankful that we got another opportunity to see what we can do today, versus there's a whole side of the world where they're like, they woke up again and they're like, damn, I just want it to be over. So they can go back to sleep again and get up and be miserable again the next day, Well,
this takes us exactly back to where the whole conversation started, is like that 55, 65-year-old man on the roof. Yep. He hated his job. He hated coming to work. He looked forward to Fridays. He looked forward to hitting the bar after work and just get another pack of cigarettes, his vices, right? All that stuff's so important,
So tell us a little bit about your coaching group. Paint that out for us a little bit and give some information so everybody knows what you've got going on there.
Thank you for that. I like for my coaching group, we're super focused on just sales communications.
Yep.
Okay. And so like, I think that's the fastest road to ROI. Yep. Like that's the fastest way in. It's like teaching someone how to talk to a client, a prospect correctly, and without even using the art of persuasion of sales and all that crazy stuff, just being polite, just asking the right questions and being thoughtful and actually get them to shut up and listen. Like that's really what our focus is in our group. And so we do role plays, we do weekly sales training, where we focus on at. We do a roadmap live every Tuesday. And then we basically talk about, hey, how are we doing in sales? What did you like? And we do role plays and stuff. And then we do a weekly compass on Friday. It's like, where are we at this week? Where are we going next week? So that people are constantly looking at the future. And of course, it's just like any other, the people that we're listening to, like the hardcore closer and, Andy Frisella and all that. It's like, we just want to be the best versions of ourselves. Yep. Wherever we're at in our business. And so that's, I think the fastest road to ROI is learning how to talk to people. So that's where our big focus is. But we're doing lots of training on personality types, which, one day I don't profess to be an expert, but I'd love to share with you where I'm at in that. Yeah. And maybe you can expose, your group to that either through.
You're talking personality types. Are you talking like DISC?
Well, DISC, but deeper, like Enneagram is what I'm into now. I mean, I like DISC a lot. Are you on Enneagram at all?
I know about Enneagram, but I was pulling through shredding some papers, and I had a DISC thing that I found as I was going through papers there, and I just thought it was funny you brought that up.
So this is funny, first of all, because you're wearing your Lions Den Live shirt from last year. That wasn't planned, right? That was an accident.
No, I wasn't wearing this morning. I ran, and this was after I ran. So this is what we got.
And then I got my Lions Den shirt on right here. This wasn't planned either. That's just like, that just shows our connectivity, right? Like we're thinking we're on the same page and stuff like that. But like in our group, we're studying Enneagram, because I think that's really important. And the DISC profile is really important on sales communication. So, because if you can get some of the cues when you're talking to a prospect, and you go like, this guy's a no nonsense guy. He doesn't want me to talk my ass off. He just wants to get to the point. He wants to get to the money. I don't want to beat around the bush. If you understand the personality types, and Enneagram is like DISC on steroids.
And I do know, because everybody tells, I will say, I'll just throw this out there. Everybody says that I've ever talked to is I'm a hard 8. That's all I know. But I don't know. We had a girl in our office in Illinois that used to work for us. It was more of it wasn't like a long-term thing. She did it in like between school, and she was all about the Enneagram and always called me a hard 8. I'm like, I know a little bit about it. I read it. I'm like, it makes sense. But yeah, any of those, I've seen a lot of great knowledge from those. I have not ever done enough research, even with DISC or with a Colby test or Enneagram. There's a lot that you can understand about somebody. And what I think is really powerful when you're tying this to sales, that I think is gold for everyone here, is especially if you're trying to help, you're building a team of salespeople, because people need tools. I'm not a natural salesperson by any means, but I'm really natural at talking to people and feeling if they have problems or feeling what's going on with them. And that's what makes like that, at least the general beginning of a conversation, really easy, where I've felt good at sales. And so if you don't have those things, and being able to use that and kind of compare people against these tests to know where they're at, to guide you as like a kind of like a compass in a conversation, to make sure you go the wrong direction and you two aren't headed this way, would be like, that's awesome that you put that in there, because that makes a lot of sense.
Well, bro, I mean, like, it's so important. And DISC is like, you're a high I, probably high D personality type. I'm high I, I'm high D, high I.
Typically I'm a real hardcore D, but then there's like different sections of this one where it says I'm an I and a D. So
okay, so I'm a hard D, hard I, like way up at the top, and the others are low. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram as well, with a wing 7, which you're probably a wing 7 from your motorcycle riding as well. So I think that's, you and I are like a lot alike in that regard. But so like, I think it's so important in sales communication. And again, that's what I find myself talking about personality types on almost every coaching call at some level, not like going in a deep dive and like, oh, not this again, but like, hey, this is this is my perspective of this client because of what I know about personality types. Mm-hmm. I just had Enneagram Ashton on my podcast, and she's got like 600,000 followers on Instagram. She's a big deal.
Wow.
And I just had her on the podcast. She's gonna, that podcast drops on Saturday. I'm excited about dropping that because it's so freaking powerful, man. And again, I think this is the fastest road to ROI. And then you're like, okay, I'm making money. And then they're like, still want to pay the dues or whatever. And then they're going to learn a little bit about, business acumen and marketing and PR, HR, all that
Sales
stuff.
is everything. Sales is everything. And I like that. And like you said, there's people for everybody. I'm like sales. I'm much more business structure and development of what like is going to speed this thing up and automate it as much as possible. I love sales, but that's not my niche like it is for you. And that's what I like about this stuff, is how everybody's got their niche, their thing that they are in their lane the most with. And ultimately that's how you're going to have more success staying in that and doing what you're good at. That's
it about our coaching group. Pretty much. We study sales, and like we talk about other stuff too. Like on the side, I'll do some private calls with other guys in the group that need, maybe need to understand how to work Jobber. And I might get them on the phone with, who's in my admin and help them through some things. And, calendar planning and hiring and those kind of things. Like we help with that kind of stuff. But for the most part, the group, that's where we spend most of our time. But, since we do role plays in our group, most all of the members like have talked on the phone for hours, because they jump on the phone, they do a role play, and then they talk about some stuff. And all of a sudden they're out skiing together, taking pictures and sending them to the group, like they're meeting and stuff like that. One of the coaches in my group, I was going to take the Lion's Den, and it just, we couldn't swing it. It didn't work out. But we went to that roofing conference with Lee Haight, like in March last year.
Okay.
And then,
cool.
I met up with 2 of our coaches in the group out at that conference and met Ed Milet and all that fun stuff. And like, it was just like, so we're all hanging out and get to know each other. So it's pretty deep where all the crew members know each other, like at a deeper level, like they know their kids' names and shit. It's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, I'll get all your information and I'll make sure that's in the description so people know how to connect with you as well after they watch and or listening to this. That's really cool to see how the direction you're taking that. I love the big sales focus, because sales is everything. I get more excited. It's not a big thing I'm a big teacher of all the time, but I get more excited than anything when I find someone that's going to be good at sales. Like here in Florida, we found someone, the second she came on for an admin position or a client success representative, then she mentioned she was a car salesman. And that she was uber, not like kind of a car salesman, like she was the youngest person at the dealership right out of high school and sat on there was a certain level of cars you had to sell in a year to sit on the chair. She was the youngest and only female to ever do that at the time she did it. And I'm like, she said that shit. I'm like, Now we got a whole different direction we need to work on heading here. And now she sells even without much knowledge of, I mean, she's got knowledge in the industry, and our stuff's general when you're talking softscaping, but she sells 99% of our projects now here in Florida.
Here's one thing I want to talk about too. I want to just bring this home too, because like I talked about finding my lane. I told you I am the artist that became the business person who was forced into learning the business part, which I didn't really want to do. And luckily I made it through, right? But like, I help a lot of people like that in business because they are running around doing free estimates, and then they're not qualifying their people well enough. And so like when I say that I'm a sales communications coaching team, it's more than just that, because I'm restoring people's times for themselves. Like people are starting to work out again. They didn't have time to work out. They didn't have time to like go to the kids' baseball games and shit like that. And now they're like coaching on the teams. You know, they're home for dinner every night. They're selling
more than they've ever sold. Selling more than they've ever sold.
Have more time, selling jobs for higher margins, like all that shit comes from that. And that's really kind of where my specialty is. It's not just like we teach sales teams how to sell more. I teach people how to restore their lives.
That's so powerful. And I know me and you have had some of the same mentors and have learned, been around a lot of stuff. And you said something, we're always looking for the next thing. Who's the next coach we're going to? Because we're not just preaching coaching, we're going out and doing that. Like you said, Stuman, I'm leaning towards, we're going to be an Apex, or I'm going to be an Apex here pretty soon. And that's like the next transition of what I'm doing. And all of the stuff just brings so much value. I know it's brought a ton of value to my life. And so I'm glad there's good people like you out there, other people that are doing this on all different levels. So, you know, more people can have success, because a lot of people just live in total frustration about their life all the time. And if we could change some of that and make some of that better, and especially in this industry, man, I have a friend that we go to this entrepreneurs dinner once a month, and all he does is work, man. All he does is work. Burns out, as I guarantee his family life is burnt out from it. You know, he's texting me at 8 o'clock. He's shown 8 p.m. showing me screens, computer screens. You know, he's at Saturday, computer screens, Sunday for half a day. And it's like, dude, you know, I know you're making a killing, but like, there's got to be a different way. There is a different way.
Well, there's the thing. I mean, like, let's see if he runs into a near-death experience that might change the way he thinks. And unfortunately, like sometimes that's what it takes to make people break out and change. Yep. I mean, for me, when it happened, I'd like to think my business was good. We're doing cool things, you know, like I still had great family life. All that stuff was kind of happening, but I was like, I just need to like, oh, the truck broke down on the road again today and someone didn't show up. Like, I don't want to fuck with that right now. Like that's why I shut it down. Right. And had I been a better businessman at the time, maybe I could have just kept it running and I could have stepped out. But then again, here I am. I'm the artist and operator, like working in the whole thing. Like that's kind of who I am.
Well, that's awesome, man. Great story. Glad to hear all that stuff. Like I said, I didn't know about the near death. You've now listed like 5 or 6 things off that were nearly exactly the same on. So it's very, very intriguing, and I'm definitely feeling a connection from those things. It kind of in closing, where can people find you? More information? Like I said, we'll list stuff as well, but if you can say some of that as well, so others can connect.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so anything about ponds is it's at the Pond Digger, like pretty much everywhere. You know, my podcast for promoting, this has been tricky for me, my podcast for promoting water features and my podcast for promoting being a good entrepreneur is still the Pond Digger podcast. So like on Thursdays, we drop contractor entrepreneur based content. And on Fridays, we touch people's lives with water, from indoor aquariums to, ponds outdoors and stuff. And so, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. You can find me pretty much everywhere. I don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but Instagram, I spend a lot of time, TikTok, all that cool stuff. And then my coaching group is based on Facebook currently. And my coaching group is, you can go to trainwithtriplett.com and find out more about that. TWT Contractor Circle is what we do, train with Triplett.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate your time. This has been a blast.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, next time Nicole's here or I'm out, bro. That's it.
Dude, I know. I'll tell her. She's the one that's going to edit this. So she's going to hear all this. So this is coming direct from you to her, and she'll get that.